What is up, everybody? Happy Friday Eve, and welcome to episode 31 of the Assets Over Money podcast. Kev, how you doing today, brother?
Yo, man. Hey, blessed, man. Hey, just like we talked about, I woke up this morning, man. So, in my right mind, I'm on my way.
Yeah, you got y'all got to win this week too, man. The Eagles.
Hey, bro. Hey, man. Just hey, it was ugly too, man. It was
Very
ugly.
ugly.
Oh my God.
It's
I
no
wanted to
bad.
turn it off so bad, yo. But
Hey,
we got that win, man.
I'll tell you what. In bigger news, I don't know if you saw the Fins put it on the Bills this weekend. You know what
Hey,
I'm
look,
saying?
any kind of win for them dudes is a win for you. I know.
I
Put
don't
it on
Them
understand this
Dolphins,
NFL season.
hey, the
How
Dolphins,
the Dolphins beat the Bills? That's what I want to know.
This
hey,
is
they
what we
laid
do.
down. Bills went
That's
out
just,
there was like, man, it's a fly game, and didn't think that
hmm
the Dolphins was a NFL team and got smacked.
that's what they get, man. I love seeing the Bills. I hate the Bills, bro. Hate hate the Bills. Love seeing them lose. So very happy about that, man. But that's
Yeah,
not why
man.
we're here today, man. We're here to talk more about Miles, man. We got a great guest here that I really want to intro up, man. Miles, how you doing today? For I intro you, man.
I'm doing well, Richard. Today's been a very productive day. I took off yesterday for my birthday,
Say
and
happy
then coming
birthday, happy
back and
birthday.
hey, thank you, sir. But yeah, coming back from one day off, it was just like, man, just balls to the wall, just trying to take care of everything with the firm I work with. So today was
Yeah,
very productive, but I'm glad the night's dwindling down.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the firm there. Also, happy birthday again, brother. That's freaking awesome. Another year around the sun, man. But yeah, I do. We're gonna ask more about this company, XSITE Capital Investment. I see it there in your name tag right there, man. But just for the group out there, man, tonight we have an amazing guest named Miles Hill. You guys see him right there, a God-fearing man, a Navy veteran, a husband, father of two. So after serving 10 years in the U.S. Navy, Miles now travels the country as a team lead and acquisition specialist for XSITE Capital, one of the leading minority-owned private equity firms in the country. So he's helped manage and acquire multifamily assets across the Southeast, empowering busy professionals to invest passively and build generational wealth. Driven by faith and purpose, Miles now serves through mentorship, education, and helping others create lasting legacies through real estate. So that get all that right, Miles. Want to welcome you to the stage, man. That sound okay? Is that good enough for you, man?
Richard, you're making me sound better than I am, man. I appreciate it.
Nah, man. Now, welcome. We're really excited to have you here, man. When Kevin, shot me your info, I'm like, man, this is a good brother to have on the stage today, brother. So before I take up, too much stuff, I definitely got a lot of questions for you, man. I guess really tell us your story, man. How did where you come from? How did you get to working for XSITE Capital Investment?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to joining XI Capital, I was actually in the United States Navy as an air traffic controller. Did that for about 10 years. And man, when I say passionate about aviation, very passionate about aviation. Every day when I was in the Navy, woke up hungry to just learn more. And now I've been out for 3 years. And anytime I hear a plane fly over my house, I just stick my head out the window, wishing that I could talk to it. So I definitely miss being an air traffic controller, but um, I got out of the Navy knowing that I wanted more. So like
Yeah.
my last 3 months of my military time, I was actually an intern with XI Capital. The Department of Defense, they have this program called Skill Bridge. And for all like the
Yeah.
military members that are
Mhm.
getting out or think about getting out, definitely take advantage of Skill Bridge. But essentially, I interned with this real estate firm because I also have a passion in real estate. 3 months did that, and then my last official day in the Navy was my first official day with XSITE Capital. So that's sort of what brought me here today.
Man, I love that, man. Okay, so I know I'm a little familiar with Skill Bridge and how that works. I guess question for you is, man, I know you mentioned kind of having a passion for real estate, but
Mhm.
it's from a military perspective, and you kind of know the cliche, right? Like, if you serve 10 years, you might as well stay in for the next 10 and all that kind of stuff. So I guess what kind of drove you to that transition, knowing that you'd be giving up, the military pension, things like that, retirement, things of that nature,
Yeah.
and kind of going into real estate? Why that shift?
And Richard, I rounded up to 10. Technically, I did like 9 years, eight
Man,
months.
hey, 10 years, 10
And
years,
so,
man. You
but no,
good.
honestly, though, if I would have did a day over 10, I would have been like, man, I'm closer to retirement than when I
Yeah.
first joined. Let me go ahead and see it out. So it was just a mental thing getting out on the other side of it. But man, honestly, I wanted to travel. I wanted to do
Yeah.
things with my family. I have a wife and 2 kids, like you mentioned in the intro, and having to like get permission from 7 different people before I could just go home. It was starting to bother me. My last, probably like 4 years at my last station, I lost a lot of family, and
Mhm.
some of them I wasn't even able to go home for their funerals. So it was like,
Yeah.
man, I can't continue to sacrifice all this time away from my family for this organization that I'm replaceable at the end of the day. So I wanted to do something that had like lasting impact on multiple people, and like it was dependent on me in a way.
Nice, man. Okay. No, I think that's solid, man. And at some point, you have to, you know, take that stand for you, regardless of what you're doing in life, whether it's military, whether it's another job, or just you feel like you're in a place where you're not supposed to be, you know. And I think the biggest challenge when I, talk to, folks at work and things like that, or, younger soldiers, is telling them is like, man, like, what is your heart telling you? And like, are you
Yeah.
truly listening? Not what your brain's telling you, because you know how it is, man. Somebody telling you what to do every day, it gets tiring. But it's like, what is your heart telling you? Is what you're
Yeah.
doing right now? Are you passionate about it? Is this getting closer to the goals that you want? So, good on you for being able to make that decision for you, but also for your family as well, too, man, to step into, something that you're, passionate about, man. So I guess with Excite, can you just dive a little bit deeper? Tell us, like, what specifically you do for them on a day to
Yeah.
day, and how does that kind of work?
Absolutely. So my official title with XSITE Capital is team lead and acquisition specialist. So my primary roles is acquisition. So forming relationships with commercial brokers, screening deals. I do extensive market research. So across the whole Southeast, for the most part, are our target markets. So when it comes to some of the sub markets in these major metros, I do a extensive market research. When we find an opportunity in a growing market, so a market that has an influx of people moving into strong schools, low crime, and the medium household income is at a certain level, man, that checks all the boxes. I send that to the team for us to analyze it. And we go through thousands of deals before we find one that we put under contract. So it's sort of like repetitious what I do, but I enjoy hopping on the phone, talking to brokers, because no 2 days is ever the same. Like I could, talk to 5 different brokers about the same deal. And that's one of my strategies that I do. I'll talk to the whole team, and just hearing like their bits and pieces of it. Like I just make notes, make notes of, and then I'll just forward that over to my team to really like hammer in on this particular opportunity. Along with like acquisitions, finding the deals, I also help raise capital. So I'm part of the investor relations team. So just meeting new people every single day, whether I'm going to a medical conference or a real estate conference, or people just book time on my calendar to learn about generational wealth. Just exchanging information between individuals, and then seeing if what we bring to market aligns with their portfolios, and then managing the deal. So from finding the deal, raising capital for the deal, and then helping like asset manage, I have my hand in all those roles. So managing our property managers on a weekly basis, ensuring that our business plan is being executed, I have a hand in as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like acquisition specialist is like the title, but the job description is like a laundry list. You know what I mean? A shopping list of all, this, and this. Okay. So as far as acquisition goes, I'm run the acquisitions for our business as well too. So question, I guess, as far as multifamily goes, I know it's vastly different, from single family, to my understanding. Don't know crazy much about it. How does that work from you guys? Are you just building relationships with brokers and they're, sending you deals? Are you reaching out to, I don't know, I want to say off market, things like that, as far as relationships with like other brokers or realtors or things that you guys are seeing in a certain area and be like, you know what, I'm gonna reach out to this owner or this group of investors for this specific, piece of commercial property. How does that kind of work for you guys?
And Richard, it's sort of twofold. So most of our deals that we've acquired in our portfolio have been listed on market. However, let's say we've closed a couple of deals this year. What I've been doing is nearby in that area, I'll reach out to some brokers that we've closed deals with before and be like, hey, do you have anything in this area? Because like I mentioned, like I do a lot of market research. If I already do research on a particular market and it fits all those checkpoints, why not just try to grow in that nearby area? So we closed a deal in Conyers, Georgia. It's a little south of Atlanta back in August of this year. And then literally after that deal got announced that XSITE Capital was the buyer, I had so many brokers reach out to me with deals in that nearby area off market. So that's been like the momentum that we've been building this year.
Man, okay, I love that. And the last question before I pass it over to Kev, because I know I can see him pondering with the headphones on and the beanie. So I guess with that, I think that's a good piece there. I feel like there's a big push, with a lot of folks getting into commercial, wanting to learn more about it, things of that nature. I guess from your perspective, as far as your room, how does it work as far as the acquisition piece? Are you the one negotiating, running the numbers and negotiating the numbers with the brokers, with the owners, what have you, or how do you kind of, work your role?
Yep. And so Richard, absolutely. So, and that's one piece of like building that relationship. So
Yeah.
imagine like someone just sent you an opportunity, and then you get that opportunity, you analyze it, you see what you can do, and then you go back and y'all hop on a Zoom call similar to us meeting on this, and we're going over our assumptions, they're going over theirs, and we're just trying to come like, all right, they're saying that the asking price is 35 million, but we're penciling at 29 million. How can we make up that difference so we can get competitive? For the deals that we are relatively close on, we'll hop in a call with the brokers, and we'll just go over all of our numbers from year one net operating income to some of the expense line items that could really like fluctuate, rent growth projections. Like once we get all those big levers figured out, we'll understand, okay, like the broker's just being super aggressive with their renovation schedule, and that's why they're able to get to this point. We are a very conservative company, and 9 times out of 10, that's the reason. They're saying that they can renovate 100 units in 1 year and then get like a rent premium of $200, and like it's just not feasible. So, but having those conversations with the brokers and letting them know like, hey, I am a serious buyer. This is what I think that I could buy this deal for, and just let the conversation flow from there. That is the route people have to take.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I definitely got some more questions, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yes,
But I'm gonna hold off and pass. I'll give you enough. I feel like I put you in the hot seat, man. Kev, you're up, brother. What's some questions you have, man?
Miles, man, listen, we met about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years. You guys had a meeting in Charlotte, and I met Tenny and Leslie. Man, I've been watching you guys ever since, man, and you guys have been growing so much, man. So like when I got an opportunity to be a co-GP on this deal in Covington, Georgia, man, like listen, man, I'm so thankful for you to let me get my foot in the door. You know what I'm saying? Because we always maintain communication.
Absolutely.
But man, what led you to multifamily? Because you could have went the single family route, you could have did any other type of real estate, but what made you want to jump into multifamily and big multifamily at that? So this is not no duplex or quad. We're talking 100 units up.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, Kevin. XSITE Capital, we focus on 100+ units. Earlier this year, we closed a 268 unit, and then back in August, we closed 128 units. So we've been grinding for sure. But when I was in the Navy, I had my own office, and I had just a stack of real estate books on my desk. And it just so happens I have the book by Joe Fairless, the best ever apartment syndication book. I read that book before I even knew what apartment syndication was. Like I was reading terms in there that I had no idea what they meant, but it's probably like God's time and God's plan, because he'll put things in front of you, like whether you're ready for it or not, but eventually you will be ready. And it's just so happened that I interned with XSITE Capital. I knew they were a private equity firm. I didn't know what a private equity firm is before I joined them. I knew syndication existed, but I never knew like the inner workings of a syndication company. So it's cool to have read that book a few years back, and then to work for a company that's actively doing the things and the principles that book teaches. So the best ever apartment syndication book by Joe Fairless. If anyone's ever thinking about going the multifamily route, I would definitely recommend it. Do not be turned off by all the terms, and like I didn't know what cap rate meant when I first entered this industry, but that didn't stop me from hopping on the phones, asking questions, building relationships, and then eventually you'll learn the skills. You'll learn the lingo, so to speak. So yeah.
Nah, man. I mean, I felt like I was in the same boat, man, because being in residential for so long, I thought I was just supposed to be in residential, right? And then, like, you guys were really the first group that I reached out to and multifamily that was like, man, come on over, let's chop it up, and you know what I mean, let's meet, and you know what I'm saying. I felt so at home with you guys, you know what I mean. So, man, it's just I'm just blown, you know what I'm saying. I'm just looking at you guys and looking at you because I mean, like, I don't know how many units you guys had when we first met, but I mean, you guys are over 1,200 units now, you know, 243 million in assets managed. I mean, that's amazing, bro. Not too many of us get to say that. So, I mean, just how does it feel just to be in that position and to be able to educate and pull someone else up? Because I'm riding your coattails, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
Kevin, I remember heading to Charlotte a few years ago, man. And since then, man, that like if you're trying to build relationships with people, because real estate is a relationship business. Like you need someone else to be able to do any transaction. People have to realize that at the end of the day, the numbers don't matter. It's the relationships you build because like you can build a team and you can go so much further. You can try to do it by yourself and you might be able to like travel fast, but you might not get as far. So yeah, since then we definitely like knocked out a lot. Just this year alone, we are approaching like the $100 million of assets under management in the year 2025. But I will say in the year 2024, in the year 2023, despite us reviewing thousands of deals, we didn't get anything to the finish line. So there are some like ebbs and flows when it comes to this industry, and you have to prepare yourselves for that. You know, it takes a lot to keep this firm up and running. And 2 years with no revenue coming into the company, those years that you have that momentum, sort of like the 2025s for XSITE Capital, we have a lot of momentum. You have to ride on that because in every single market, like the real estate market, it has its ups and downs. It has its recessionary periods. It has the expansionary periods. So if your company is going through that time where like economic downturn, you just got to brace the ride. But if you're in it for the long run, which XSITE Capital is, which I am as well, you're gonna set yourself up to endure that challenging years, and then if it's all worth it for the years like this year.
Yeah, bro. I mean, man, I mean, you guys have blown me away, man. Like I said, I've been following you guys ever since we met, you know, around that 2 year mark. And to see what you guys have done since then has just been, I mean, it's been mind blowing, bro. So, you know, I commend you guys. And that's why I was, you know, always reaching out, trying to get as much information as I could, trying to learn, you know, trying to be around, man. So, but tell us about, you know, when you first started, like
Okay.
what made you so in love with real estate?
All right, so I mentioned it earlier, but my last like 3 official months when I was still active duty, I was interning for this company. Man, so I'm out the Navy, or like I'm about to be out the Navy, and I'm still an intern. I did not know if I was gonna get hired on or not. But one thing I did during my internship was I was in the acquisitions team. I would reach out to brokers, send deals to underwriting. But what I did that sort of like provided a lot of value to this firm was I would reach out to every single team member individually, and I'd be like, "Hey, what can I help you with today? What can I take off your plate?" And that right there made me well rounded, and now I'm a team lead that has my hand in a lot of different departments because as an intern, I was helping out with marketing. I was helping out with asset management. I was helping out with the administrative stuff that gets overlooked. And so within 3 days of officially getting out the Navy, we closed on a 144 unit deal. And talk about such a cool experience. Literally 1 week ago, I didn't know if I was going to have a job. The very next week, I'm helping close $17 million deal. And still to this day, like I sometimes I gotta like take a step back and I struggle with self-doubt because like I identify as an air traffic controller. That's what I woke up and did every single day for 10 years. Now that I've been out for 3 years, I still struggle sometimes with self-doubt because like, man, I'm out here closing $1 million deals and having like $1 million transactions, and it's just I'm not used to it, essentially.
Yeah, yeah, nah, man. Hey, I get that, bro. I mean, it's like day and night almost to a certain
Yeah.
extent. But, you know, talk to us about, you know, we know how it's a lot of us in single family, and it's not that many of us in multifamily, right? Especially to be on that commercial end, right? That big
Mhm.
commercial end. it's not a lot of us, and you know what I mean when I say not a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
So at the same time, like, talk to us about why it's so important that we as a people get into commercial real estate.
I mean, if you look at some other groups around, not to bring race or ethnicity into this conversation, but there are certain people that stick together and they are able to, like, just build generational wealth. For the longest, I've always been taught, like, hey, go to school, work hard, get a job, and then if you can, leave an inheritance to the next generation. Man, there's asset classes out here that you can just invest in, and then instantly, like, like the next generations beyond you can benefit based off your sacrifice or your work. So um, I say it all the time to different people, but Proverbs 13:22 is like my guiding principle that, like, I live by. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And while commercial, so anything like multifamily could be a 2, 3, or 4 unit, but anything 5 units and above is when you get into that commercial. People sometimes will stay in like the residential side of things, not knowing that sometimes it's easier to get a loan at like 5+ units. They don't look at, like, they're gonna like underwrite you as a person. They're not gonna just give like $1 million loans to anybody. However, there's no like personal guarantee sometimes. There's
Right.
non-recourse loans out here. So I would encourage everyone that's considering go to multifamily, definitely dabble in it, because one transaction can change your family's lineage. And having that generational wealth and being able to, like, really just change your I don't, my children are 9 and 4, so it's going to be a while, God willing, before I have grandchildren. But knowing that, like, the work that I do today could potentially impact my grandchildren, bro, I'll wake up excited. Like, we need to
Yeah,
get out here and
yeah,
go get it because of that. So
yeah. Now you mentioned recourse. Talk to us about recourse loans and non-recourse. What's the difference?
essentially, like, I don't want to, like, overstep, because some things I'm still learning about. That's why I got all these books on my desk. But recourse and non-recourse is essentially like in the title. Like, if you default on the loan, will there be repercussions or will there not be repercussions to you personally? And that's what non-recourse, you're not going to have any. Recourse, you are going to be impacted, like,
Right,
personally. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Nah, man, that's what's up, man. So I mean, you never went to school for real estate. You've been in the Navy. You're an air traffic controller. Now you're, managing multi-million dollar apartment buildings, man. So for the folks out there, man, just, that's going to be seeing this, like, just let them know, man, like, exactly what steps. I mean, I know you were an intern first. You got with XSITE Capital, and I mean, who did you know at XSITE to kind of get on as an intern?
Well, actually, man. So when I was in the Navy, I was stationed at Naval Station Mayport, and someone I was friends with her. She was actually an intern with this company before I was. So me and her built a great friendship over the years that we were stationed together. And she knew I was getting out. She knew that I had passion for real estate. Excuse me. She felt like I would be a great fit for this company. And it turns out she was absolutely right. So I'm so grateful for Kalea Mannings. If you ever listen to this, I just want to say me and my family are big fans of you and forever will be, because her sort of walking that path first as an intern and then turning around and be like, hey, Miles, walk this same path. You're going to get a great experience out of it. Yeah, just so grateful for. But for other people who may not be in the military and can do a skill bridge partnership or program, I would say education and network, like going to like networking events, meeting new people, because sometimes you might not have to have all the money or all the access, but if you can find someone in the room that may be liquid or is knowledgeable, and you just start connecting the pieces. I want to go back to the point. This industry, this business is a relationship based business. If you can just build relationships with people and just start connecting the dots. Hey, I can find deals, but I don't have money. And someone has money but can't find deals. Boom, right there. That sounds like a perfect partnership for me. So I would say education, because you want, even though I didn't know what cap rate was or syndication was, I still educated myself every single day. Like, the lack of knowledge is okay, but staying ignorant when you know the information's out there, that's what I have an issue with. So
Yeah,
educate yourself and then start building those relationships.
Hey, brother, I feel the same way about you, man. I mean, because you're doing the same thing that your girl did for you. You know what I'm saying? And you're pulling me up by the bootstraps, man. So, like, bro, I definitely appreciate you, man, just for the opportunity, bro. And, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure, hey, I'm in your place 2 years from now.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, 'cause
What
I
you
got
got?
some
What?
questions. Yeah, you know me. I'm just
Yeah.
sitting here thinking, pondering, keep rubbing my chin, man. You know, I'm like, man, it makes sense. Yeah, man. So I guess with being that you guys are a private equity firm and whatnot, I'm just curious, would you be able to talk? And if you can't, feel free to say you can't talk about it. But as far as like, I guess how does it work in terms of, I guess and this is too personal. Just let me know as far as like returns go, returns for investors, returns for the company, returns for returns to the company, things of that nature. As far as getting paid on a multi-family deal, could you kind of just walk us through and walk our listeners through? Okay, we got a property. How do we getting paid? How do we ensure that our investors are getting paid? Things of that nature.
And absolutely. So you always want to start with the end in mind. And
Yeah.
our end in mind is our investors. Our investors are our lifeblood of our business. If they're not getting their returns, then they're not going to invest in the next deal. Like if they're not getting returns, they're not going to refer their family and friends. So the end in mind is a minimum a 15 to 20% average annual return. All the deals that we look at, I'm talking about, we review thousands of deals, and to drive this point home, those couple of years that we didn't get anything to the closing line, I reviewed personally over 2,000 deals before we found our Grove Park View. It was the deal that we closed in March of this year. But where you start is, or I'll walk sort of through the whole process, and then I'll get to the returns at the end. I want to find a market that has great fundamentals. For like the forecasted population is going to be increasing year over year. I don't want to invest in a market that people are leaving. If people are leaving, then the demand for those apartment units is going down. I don't like that. I want to invest in areas that have great schools. People want to live and invest in areas with great school districts. In some of our apartment communities, I've talked to some of the residents, and they moved their family across Atlanta to, be at this particular community to send their kids to is Parkview High for that particular asset. So population check, school is good, low crime. Like no one wants to live in a neighborhood where they have to be fearful of their kids playing outside. Once I find a market like that, and then I'm looking for an asset that's has a lot of value that can be added to it. If all that checks the box, that we put an offer in, it gets accepted. One thing I'll say is we're not gonna take a deal to market to raise capital from our investors if it doesn't hit that 15 to 20% average annual return. And essentially what that means, if I could just break it down with numbers, if you were to invest $100,000 into this asset, does it return 15 to 20% on average every single year? And there are a couple of different return metrics when it comes to commercial real estate, but I like to think of the returns in twofold. So one way is like off the operations of the asset. So the apartment, it generates income, whether that's rental income, pet fees, admin fees, late fees. There's a slew of line items that these properties generate. It's not just rent.
Yeah.
Rent is the majority of that potential income, but there's some other income line items that definitely we have to take in consideration. But after the property generates the income, and then you minus out the expenses, so what it takes to manage these assets, payroll, turns, repairs, maintenance, all these line items that get deducted. So you got your income, you minus out your expense. After we service our debt or we pay our mortgage payment, what's left over is considered free cash flow. And we use that cash flow to give distributions back to our investors on a quarterly basis. So every single 3 months, they're receiving just mailbox money. They worked hard for their capital. They're entrusting XSITE Capital to be a great steward of their money. And now their money is working for us or working for them. So that's one thing that I didn't learn about. My whole life, I traded my time for money. And now I'm investing in these assets that my money can be working for me. It's a cool concept that's not talked about that often. But yeah, that's one way that returns work based off the operations of the asset. Once we go to sell these assets, Kevin and Richard, that's when most of the proceeds are generated. And to bring this point home, for one of a deal that we acquired in early 2021. We acquired the property, we executed our business plan, and then we sold the property. Less than 2 years later, the property increased in value over 40% in less than 2 years, just by driving up income, reducing expenses. But our investors, we were projecting an 18% average annual return to our investors. Once we sold, we actually achieved a 29.9% average annual return. So all of those investors, they did, really well in that deal. They ended up taking those proceeds and rolling off into the next deal, continue to build that generational wealth. And that's sort of how the returns work in commercial.
Man, that is awesome. Okay, so that's from an investor perspective, which is very, very interesting. As far as I guess the company goes, how does that work? It's like when you guys sell off, I know you guys get like I don't want to say like a finder's fee, so to speak, kind of thing. But that's what it is. But yeah, but can you kind of explain it for us?
Absolutely. So from like the firm level, there's a few ways that we can get paid. From an acquisition fee, which is sort of what you were referring to, Richard, as like a finder's fee. We got to, and the way I explain is like, we got to get paid. We got to keep the lights on for the firm. So it's typically industry standards 1 to 3% of the purchase price. For our larger deals, we'll go down to like the 1 to 1.5 or 1.5%. For the smaller deals, and I'm referring to like the $25 to $35 million range, we'll probably take the 3% acquisition fee. For managing the deal, so as an operator, we are managing the property manager on a weekly basis. We'll meet with them. We get an asset management fee, and then once we go to sell that asset, there's a capital transaction fee, and I think the market is like 1 to 3% as well. So those are a few different ways that we can get paid as operators.
That's cool. And when you hear like 1 to 3% at first, you're like, oh, that's not that much, but you're talking about 25, 30, 45 million dollars. That's a pretty penny, to say the to say. But I guess as far as another question with that is, I know you mentioned, you go in there, execute the plan, drive up income, reduce the expenses. On average, how long are you guys holding some of these, assets? Or is it more, short term, or hold these for the next 2 to 5 years? Or do you guys have any assets you plan to hold on for a while?
Yeah, so our current portfolio, we have $243 million of assets under management. In all of those particular deals are standalone investments, but they range between anywhere from 3 to 10 years. So, and one downside about investing, whether you're a passive investor or you're an operator, is these assets are very illiquid. So, unlike like wholesaling or fix and flip, where you can get paid, based off the work you do, sometimes you're delaying that gratification off, but you're building true wealth, because it might take a year or two to get one to the finish line. But once you do that, like Richard was just mentioning, that 1 to 3% of a $30 million deal, that's significant. So, that's essentially it, though.
Man, yeah, I freaking love that. That is awesome. It's very eye opening, man. And each time, again, a shout out to you, Miles. Also, shout out to Kevin, man. I learned something new about multifamily. I'm in a single family space, still working that. But the more I listen to you guys, I know it's hard. I get that shiny object, man. Like, I need to move over to the commercial, man. I just go ahead and just jump into commercial, do XYZ, leave this stuff to Steve's stuff alone, man. But yeah, no, it's so intriguing and so interesting, man. And the beauty about that is, like, I was researching XSITE, was researching you as well too, man. I like to be a little educated on the guests. It's just so cool to see what you guys are doing. It seems very powerful. It seems like you guys are operating in the field, and where again you don't see a lot of us necessarily operating, but you guys are making it happen, and it seems to be doing it successfully. And yeah, very awesome, man. So I just hats off to you, hats off to Kevin, man, for getting you guys getting you here. But it is truly, like, I'm almost like floored, man. It's really awesome to hear what you're doing, the things that you're working on, and you make it sound so easy, And I want to highlight. You said, man, I went through 1 year. I went through 2,000 deals, to find one, which is not something small. 2,000 deals. That's if you crunch those man hours, it's probably a few days that you were researching in total.
Absolutely.
Maybe even a few weeks that you were researching in total. 2,000 deals to analyze, man, and I don't want to say it's a numbers game, but to some degree, it kind of is. The more deals, there's an old book that I read. It's called 10,000 No's. And it says if you have a goal of anything, it's more of like a sales, like a sales kind of thing. But it's like if your goal, instead of let me find the yes, if your goal is 10,000 No's, you're going to have so many yeses within there that you will even forget about what you're working. It's like, all right, let me focus. Okay, that's one no. Let me hunt the no. Let me get to the no. Let me get to the no, because that no is in turn putting you closer to the yes. And just hearing your true testament of that, man. So it's really awesome to hear this, man. I appreciate you.
And Richard, I've read a very similar sales book. It's called Go for No, and it's that same principle. Like instead of like being fixated on the yeses because they're few and far between, if you focus on the no, it's sort of like it shifts people's mentality to like just fall in love with the process, and then the end result will speak for itself. But I will say, if someone would have told me like, Miles, you're gonna have to go through 2,000 of these before you get something, I probably would have hung up shop.
He's like, hey, bro. He's like,
once you're in it and you're doing it, because like along with those 2,000 deals, those are hundreds of conversations with brokers, hundreds of markets being reviewed. Like if anything, like just because we didn't close that particular deal, I learned something from that deal, so I could take something from that particular deal into the next one, into the next one, into the next one. So even though we didn't close any of those 2,000 deals, it made XSITE better, and then it also made me better.
Yeah, man, and I love that. And kind of shifting gears a little bit, my last question, I'll pass it back to Kev, man. So one thing I 100% want to highlight, because I know it's something you hold in a high regard, your family. So with this job, it seems extremely busy. Looks like whether you're traveling, analyzing 2,000 deals a year, what have you. I guess, where does being a good husband, being a good father, how do you make that work? How do you prioritize that while still showing up, and crushing it at work as well?
Yeah, and Richard, to answer this one, like full transparency, I'm still struggling with it sometimes. So, and not to blame my military background, but I was so mission focused and mission oriented. If someone tells me like, hey, Miles, we need this, I might sacrifice a few things to make it happen. But I get to work from home, so being able to like drop my kids off or pick them up from school or take them to dance or to after school programs, I get to do still. So I'm very grateful for that. Unless I'm like traveling to a different market to put eyes on properties, every night I get to sleep, in my own bed, get to tuck my kids in, pray over them before they go to sleep. So, but to answer your question, I've talked to plenty of people about this, and they say like a work-life balance doesn't necessarily exist. It's more so like harmony. There's gonna be some times where you're gonna have to sacrifice family time to make things happen in work, and I find that to be true. Last year, it came to my mind right when you're answering it. I had a vacation, working vacation. I'm literally on the balcony with my computer, with my multiple monitors, and I see just my kids playing in the ocean, and I'm on the balcony working and taking investor calls. And then the next day, me and my wife, we went jet skiing in the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm literally answering work emails in the middle of the ocean. It was like sometimes I should separate the things, but if someone needs something, I like to get it to them like right then and there. Like if I get an email, I hate to just sit on it, and then, like now it's weighing on my mind. I'd rather just pull off to the side. We're on a dolphin cruise. I'm over here looking at dolphins and responding to emails. But sometimes I'll be more present, and I'll have like dedicated focus time where no phone, like phone down, playing video games with my children or watching TV with my wife at the end of the night. So.
Yeah, man. I love how you answered that too, because one of the things that I heard, from folks who are not only just successful and like doing really well, but folks who like share similar values, one of the commonalities that I've seen is that it's not necessarily how much time you spend, but with the time that you do spend with them, how intentional, are you with it? Which I think is a fair point, because let's be let's be honest. There's times where we're spending time with the family and all we're doing is just sitting on the couch. We're sitting there on the couch, sitting on our phones, and everybody else is doing their thing, and we're just kind of just chilling off in our own world. That's not intentional time. Most people will call that I'm spending time with the family. I'm hanging out with the fam. When you're not really hanging out with anybody, you're just sitting there watching TV. Being intentional with that is like, you and your wife talking, or you and playing with the kids, or tucking them in and praying, things of that nature. Is things that leave an impact, and you're leaving a great legacy to your family, because you're showing like, when dad is working, but when dad is with you guys, like, he is with you guys. And there may be times where I have to step away and kind of, mesh the two, but you guys are a priority, and they can tell that by, how hard you work. And you're instilling that work ethic in them, which is priceless,
Yeah, they hate it though, man. Every Saturday I got to make some like 50 phone calls, And they're like, Dad, are you done making phone calls? I'm like, y'all, if you see that door is closed, I'm still in here making phone calls. But and that's sometimes where I should do better prioritizing my time. But so, like especially like right now, we're actively raising for a new deal. Time is of the essence. We only have like a 60 to 90-day window to get millions of dollars raised. So like sometimes I have to sacrifice Saturdays and
Yeah.
Sundays like for my family, watching NFL Sunday while I'm texting people. So like, there's gives and takes, but I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, man. I love that. Hey, Kev, you got anything else, brother?
Yes, sir, man. So listen, hey, Miles, I know we talked about family and all that, but and I love that about you, man, that you're doing that for your family. Because we're all doing that. You know what I mean? Richard got a little one, I got a little, 7-year-old, you know what I mean? So we're all in the same boat, man. But, you know, I just think it's amazing how you're setting an example for your kids and leaving that legacy for them. You know what I mean? Proverbs is always a good book for me as well, bro. So, knowing that's one of your life verses, that's good.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the property, man. Talk to us about the park at Arlington, man. You know what I mean? I
Okay.
know we had a meeting the other day, but let's talk about that, and let's talk
Okay.
about what makes the deal a good deal. And
Absolutely.
for the folks that's out there listening to us that may be wanting to invest, what makes this deal a great deal?
Absolutely. So before I talk about like why we love this deal or like why this deal, I want to tell the story of how we got this deal. So I sort of alluded to it earlier today, but XSITE Capital, we closed on a few two institutional grade assets this year, and it sort of like forefronted us in the minds of a lot of brokers. And a broker is just like essentially like a real estate agent for commercial. Once they found out that XSITE Capital is an active buyer in the market, they've been sending me more opportunities than I can review. And that's a good problem to have. You want to be able to review, we like to have our pipeline full at all times. Even like now that we're raising on Park at Arlington, we're still reviewing deals. So us closing those deals allowed us to get Park at Arlington. When we closed on the Rise is a 2022 built 128 unit that's in Conyers, Georgia. So this is roughly like 30 miles south of Atlanta. Less than 2.5 miles from the Rise is the Park at Arlington. Once we closed the Rise, the broker brought this one to us off market. And some reasons why I love this deal, why we love this deal, and some of our investors are excited about this deal, it boils down to sort of three main points. And I would say the location. This particular area is growing. It's in the path of progress when it comes to Atlanta. What I'm noticing is there's a lot of people in a lot of major metros around the country. They're leaving the city centers and going to the outside suburbs. So it's still within a 30-mile drive of the city, but it's a suburban feel. They're expanding highways down there. They're expanding roadways down there. Thousands of jobs are moving to this particular submarket. That right there is going to allow the population to continue to just increase year over year. When the populations are increasing, that means there's more demand for units, and you always need to look at supply and demand ratios or imbalances or balances. This particular area, when it comes to the supply, for over 10 years, there was no apartments developed in this particular area. So that means there's a lack of supply. There's all these jobs moving to this area, so that means there's a lot of demand. A lack of supply with a lot of demand is great for apartment operators. So the location is one reason why we love this opportunity. Along with the location, the proximity of this asset from the asset that we just closed on, I mentioned it was like less than 2.5 miles. With two properties of that size, one's 128 units, the Park at Arlington is 188 units. You can use economies of scale. And for those that might not be privy of that term, economies of scale essentially means like we have one property. Instead of paying for two property managers, we can have one property manager that could just float between, or a leasing specialist. They could just float between two properties. Instead of hiring two maintenance crews, we could just hire one maintenance crew and they could just float between two properties. So right then in itself, we're cutting down expenses. And the name of the game when it comes to commercial, because at the end of the day, apartment buildings are businesses, and how you value
Right.
businesses is how much income they generate. So if you can
Mm-hmm.
raise income, obviously the value is going to go up. But if you can lower expenses, the value is going to go up. So if you can
Right.
raise income and minus expenses, like the values just can go through the roof. So with the use of economies of scale, we'll be able to take advantage of reducing expenses, and then the debt. when it comes to commercial real estate, debt is a tool. And like any tool, if you use it improperly, it can hurt you. Like if I'm trying to drive a nail with a screwdriver, I might be able to get that nail in there, but was it effective? So the debt that we were assuming on this property is a Fannie Mae backed, it's a Fannie Mae loan, so it's government backed, and it's a 3.5% interest rate fixed for the next 6 years. So if I were to go out and try to get new debt for this property, even though interest rates are coming down somewhat, if you look at like the 10-year treasury, it's all over the place the last couple of years. But
Yeah.
if I were to go get new debt for this property, I'm probably going to get like a high 5, low 6%. Us having a 3.5% interest rate from day one fixed throughout our whole period, very excited about that. We're going into it
That's
day
a win.
one with positive leverage. It's a huge win. In fact, there's going to be a lot of blood to get into the streets of commercial real estate, and it's going to be people who assumed or not assumed, they bought deals a few years back with adjustable rate mortgages. So as interest rates go up or down, their mortgage payment went up and down. And if you remember, like towards 2022 and 2023, interest rates just at an unprecedented level went through the roof.
Double. Yeah, they doubled.
And then with that, people's mortgage payments doubled or tripled. And so now they're no longer able to service their debt. That's an opportunity for people that are ready. So let me see. I mentioned the location. I mentioned the debt. And for whatever reason, I'm drawing a blank for the third reason. But very excited for Park at Arlington. But
Nah, you good, man. Go ahead, Rick.
Quick, bro. So is this the deal you was talking to me about?
Yeah.
Bro, okay. So you guys are doing this deal together?
Yeah, so I'm they brought me in as a co-GP, which is a general partner. You know what I mean? And so I'm raising debt right now. Well, raising equity for the deal. You know what I mean? And that's how I'm getting my foot in the door.
Okay. So you're bringing in like different investors, is what you're saying? Okay. Got you. Okay, so I was like, we put 2 and 2 together. All right. So for everybody out there, unless y'all fail to put together like I failed, Kevin and Miles, Kevin and XSITE Capital and Miles, they're doing it, working on a deal together, which is pretty freaking awesome. So that was the big news, man. I was like, all right, let's hear about it. When we get into this, y'all was talking about the whole time, and I just wasn't shooting up top, man.
Because Miles, last week we had the call on Thursday.
Yeah.
We usually have our podcast on Thursday.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I had to tell Rick, we got to push this back because I got to be on this call. You know what I mean? And then I had some big news, so that's what that's where we getting at all this at. But go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. So Kev, how did you get involved, brother? Like, I think the folks out there definitely want to know, man.
Man, listen, XSITE had a function in Charlotte maybe a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And I met Miles, I met Leslie, and I met Tinny, which, are the founders. And man, they just welcomed me, bro. You know what I'm saying? They just welcomed me in. Miles was just, me and Miles just kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say just hit it off, but like, we kind of connected and, I got his number, his information. I followed them on LinkedIn. So, every deal that they did, I'm just following along and watching and, I'm already preparing. I'm looking for deals myself, you know what I'm saying? Knowing that I can't do it on my own, but, just getting the practice under my belt. And so when, we end up, they got this one got it under contract. We talked and they was like, well, bring you on as a GP, co-GP. You got to raise $750,000 and, you get your foot in the door, you know what I mean? Because the more you do that, Miles can tell you, you don't have to be the top of the totem pole to make this work for your family, right? So just getting your foot in the door with 188 units, that's going to allow me to do more things in the future. You know what I mean? Because the more I do this, I could do it 1 or 2 more times and I can go and, get my own loan and put my own team together. You know what I mean? So it's almost like a piggyback opportunity, but you don't get, like I told you before, you don't get too many people out here that's doing what they're doing on that level that look like us, right? Yeah. And and not to bring race into it, but like I admire that because like I've talked to a lot of groups, I went to a lot of meetings, and they welcomed me more than anyone else did. So it just kind of went that way, and I'm nose deep in commercial, looking for deals, talking to brokers because I was a realtor and a broker for 19 years. So me being able to talk to brokers was real. It came real easy to me. And so just having them behind me, and you know what I'm saying, they're backing me up basically now. I mean, it's nothing to go talk to folks and, you know, kind of articulate what the deal is and how it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah. Man, bro, that's exciting, bro. Yo, congrats to you both, man. That pumps
Thank
me up.
you.
I'm hyped. I'm hyped for y'all. I'm
Yeah,
really am,
man.
man. I love that, bro. So yeah, congrats to both of you guys. Yeah, for that. Sorry to interrupt. I know you guys were flowing.
No,
Oh,
no,
no.
not
Just
at
want to
all,
make
not
sure
at
I was
all.
putting. I was like, hold up, something's not. You know,
But
some big.
but one thing that I've seen, right? Like I had my license in '07 when the Great Recession hit
Sure.
and single family homes were like just plummeting, right? I was doing short sales for our people that were, you know, just walking away from their houses.
Hmm.
And so one thing that I've seen in commercial is almost like '07 again for residential, right? Because just like Miles said, like people are getting underwater now with those interest rates, you know, because you have to forecast. And so if you're forecasting 3%, and then next thing you know, the market goes to 7%, your payment has doubled. Now you're underwater, now you're distressed. And that's what's kind of happening right now, right? As you're seeing a lot more distressed sales in commercial. And that's
Hmm.
where, you know, I just want to be at a position where we can scoop them and go.
Yeah, because and with that, like distress, and it's sort of like you gotta shift your mind. When you see like a distressed situation, some people will run from it, but that's the best time to like, get into the game. And like I was on this one webinar, I can't remember who it was. It's like a big name person in like the commercial real estate space, but he was basically saying like, hey, if you're at the like I'm talking about different markets, right? We were just referring to the real estate market, but if you go to the supermarket and bananas are on sale, are you going to buy more bananas or are you going to leave the store not wanting bananas? People, if they're in the market for bananas, they're going to scoop up the bananas if they're on sale. When real estate
Right.
is on sale, like right now, because if you look at like not to time the market, but if you look at the commercial property price index. So this is just an index that tracks commercial prices, and then there's different like asset classes within commercial, but this is just commercial in general. In December of 2021, I believe, it was either December 21 or December 22. Prices peaked, started to plateau, and then now they're on the decline. Well, if you look at that CPPI, now it's starting to level back off. And if you look at, like, I'm not an expert, but I review reports from experts. They're forecasting that prices are going to get back to right where they were in 21. If you buy now at a great basis, like you don't make money when you sell an asset. You do, but you don't. I never understood this until now. If you buy at a great basis, you are protecting your downside from day one. So if you're
You're
scooping
winning
up an
already.
asset, and then like how Kevin was just mentioning, like people were buying assets with adjustable rates. Our last deal, we purchased it for $25.3 million, and we closed on this deal in August of this year. We acquired that property because the prior owner, they had adjustable rate debt. They could no longer service their debt. It was either they give it back to the bank and lose all their investor capital, or they sell it. They bought this asset for $24 million in
Mm,
the year
mm.
2022 when it had 0% occupancy. A couple years later, we bought it for we bought it for more, but we bought it for 25.3, fully stabilized. And that's
Right.
just because we were in a position that we were ready to capitalize off of the distress. So going forward, we're gonna see billions of dollars of assets getting transacted. There's a lot of stuff that's about to hit the fan. So
Yeah,
once
man.
again, this industry is a relationship based business, but it's also a business, right? These assets are businesses. Along with a lot of other businesses, you have a lot of older owners that are set to retire. Sometimes they'll give it to their families, but more times than not, it's not like a family legacy type of thing. They're going to sell it to someone else that's ready. There's going to be a golden opportunity over the next couple of years for people that are ready, whether it's a elderly seller, whether they're the properties in financial distress because of their interest rates. I'm saying all this to say, if you're interested in commercial real estate, right now is the time to start educating yourself, because there's going to be golden opportunities. You can set yourself up, your children up, and your grandchildren up based off of things that we do today. And that might not say like, hey, buy a deal today, but get a book. and start reading it, or hop on YouTube and start, learning new things, or go to a networking event. Kevin right now he has an opportunity to hop on a deal with XSITE Capital because he attended a networking event a couple years back, and that is one strategy that XSITE Capital does. Anytime we go to a different market, we'll advertise that we'll be there. We'll get a little section at a bar. It don't even have to be anything fancy, but we'll have like a little section in a hotel or a bar, and then like-minded
Yep.
individuals will fill the room up. Whether it's one person or 30 people, we're pouring value into them because you never know, a year and a half, 2 years later, you're all hopping on a podcast with them, So like I'm just saying, plant the seeds now, start meeting the right people, start educating yourself, because the opportunity, man, I'm really excited. If y'all can't tell, I'm so excited about the now and the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, man, I think this. I mean, this is a good one for us. This is what, episode 31.
Yeah. 31.
So man, this is just, you've been a blessing to us, bro. A wealth of information. But we always like to ask folks, Miles, what would you tell your 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now? What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would tell my 18-year-old self to start investing, whether that's in real estate or the stock market or crypto. Like, imagine if my 18-year-old self bought Bitcoin. Like, I wouldn't even be on this call right now. I'll be, somewhere completely different. I would say, so
Yeah.
what I really mean by that is, to like drive a point home, is we need to start diversifying. Our whole lives we've been taught work hard. And like, if you look at like the cash flow quadrant, it's a book by Robert Kiyosaki. In fact, he may even mention it in Rich Dad Poor Dad, but he has a whole
Yep.
second book called The Cash Flow Quadrant.
Yep.
Majority of the people who live in the United States of America, they're going to be on one side of the quadrant where they're either employed or they're self-employed, but
Self-employed.
AKA they're trading their time for money, which is okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
totally fine to have a W-2 or 1099 and work for your money. However, your money can work way harder than you. You could have
Right.
put, my 18-year-old self could have put $100 in the S&P 500. Was that 14 years ago, and I would be in a way better situation. 18-year-old self may have not been able to buy real estate, but I could have been wholesaling or something. Like, just diversifying from what we're told. Like, go to college, which is good for some people, but for the majority of people, it I'm not gonna say it's a scam, but a lot of people are leaving college in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt when they could have just used that same time to find a skill to work for their
Right.
money, and
Right.
then now deploy their money to work for them. So that's what I would
Yes,
tell my
sir.
younger self. Just like, change your mind up. You're about to join the Navy, work hard, do all that, keep expenses low, and that money that you're saving, don't put it in a savings account, because they're robbing us. Like, money in a savings account with the rate of inflation is losing value. Your bank is
You're
paying
losing
you
money.
what, 0.001%.
Right.
Meanwhile, they're taking your same money, and then that's how they make
10
a living
times in
off
it.
of. Yeah,
Yes,
so it's
sir.
like, instead of having that, have money in a savings account, have that emergency fund, but use that savings and maybe put it in like a ETF that tracks the S&P 500 or something that's gonna work for you. That's why I want so many people to start understanding. Like, you work hard for your money, now make your money work for you.
Yeah, man. For sure. For sure. Hey, well, Rick, I ain't got nothing else, man. I mean, I know you want to chop it up about the deal we got in Atlanta, but bro, anytime, man, like I say, dog, Miles will answer the phone. He answers the phone whenever I call. I ain't gonna lie, and I appreciate that, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, because you ain't got to do that. I know you busy too, but man, let's chop it up, Rick. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I was on your side for a long time, bro, and that's why I talk so much about commercial, because commercial is gonna change your life way faster than residential will.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I see it. I see it even a shift now. Like, a lot of folks who, do the single family thing, they build up a little portfolio and they hit that realization. Shoot, Tim said it himself, man. He had like 16, 17 units, something like that,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
making enough. So he switched.
Yep.
But yeah, man, no, for sure. We can definitely chop it up. Hey, for you guys out there, hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Super impactful. Miles, how can we stay connected with you, man? You got an IG handle, hit up XSITE Capital website. How do folks get in contact with you?
If it's okay, if I just like send y'all like my Calendly link, if
Yeah.
someone wants to just book a call, like, my calendar is literally open Saturday and Sundays. And we were talking about like how do you balance it with the family. Sometimes I have to work around like my off days. Like even though I could take off Saturday and Sundays, we work with a lot of busy people that are, Monday through Friday, their calendars are full. So hey, if I can have a conversation with you on Saturday, let's set it up. So I will send y'all my Calendly link, and maybe like in the show notes, y'all just drop that there. That's the best way to like, hey, get on my calendar. Let's talk for 30 minutes or so. I do have an Instagram. It's not the most professional handle. I need to actually change it, and I need to start posting more on Instagram. But
actually, you ain't got something with it. I definitely added you today, so I got to see what it is.
Okay, I'll have to get on there and follow you back, Richard, man. But yeah, it's Salim. So my first name spelled backwards _ Jim. So Salim Jim.
Ooh, that boy's smooth. Slim Jim.
Salim Jim is my handle. And yeah, if you hit me up on there, I'll probably reach back out to you too. Or I mean, if people are listening to this on YouTube, 901-326-1499. That's my cell phone number. If you call me and leave me a voicemail or shoot me a text, I will get back to you. Sometimes I don't answer
Mike
numbers.
Jones. Mike Jones.
But yeah, 901-326-1499. That's my cell phone number. Please feel free to call, shoot me a text. Yeah, I love meeting new people. So I'm excited.
Man, let's grow together, brother.
I love it, man. I love it. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again, Miles, for being here, man, and adding so much value. Guys, this is awesome. As always, if you guys have any questions or want to hear from any specific people over any specific topics, just let us know, man. Outside of that, this was episode 31 of the Assets Over Money podcast. See you guys soon. Peace.
Later.
All right, y'all. Y'all take care.
Yep.
All right, man. Appreciate you.